PR Connections Radio presents.
Welcome to Vegas Hockey Hub here on PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media. We are here in the sports entertainment capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm your host, Ian Rickelli. And what an incredible series it was. What a fantastic finale to the Stanley Cup final as your Vegas Golden Knights have won the 2023 Stanley Cup Championship. It is a great feeling to say here in Las Vegas that we are champions, that finally we win the cup. I will say for all Vegas Golden Knights fans watching around the world that it is an incredible feeling to have. That doesn't matter if it's 24 hours later, 48 hours later, heck, it could be 24 years from now. It doesn't matter what time it is. Vegas Golden Knights fans are excited because they have finally won a Stanley Cup. The most prestigious trophy in all of hockey is now home to Las Vegas. Now, before we break down what happened in Game 5, before we give you an analysis of what happened in the game, let's talk about the pregame. You had Steve Aoki as the DJ. He was hyping up the crowd inside Toshiba Plaza. He was making everybody feel like, hey, this is a good event to be at. This is an event you have to watch. So I got to give a lot of credit to the DJ pregame because he definitely was hyping up the crowd. The intensity was there. Everybody was loud, and they were very happy to be there at T-Mobile Arena going into Game 5. Now, they had the entrance. They had the introduction that they do pre-game, and it is by far the most entertaining pre-game ceremony in all of hockey. There is nobody who even compares to the entertainment value that the Vegas Golden Knights do before the game kicks off. And after they do, that's the introduction, and they had all of the good effects and all the people that are in the entertainment department at the Vegas Golden Knights at T-Mobile Arena. I got to give them their props, by the way, for somebody who actually cares about that field and that industry. You did a fantastic job. Rapper 50 Cent, he was sounding the horn. He was doing all the horn before the game kicked off. He was hyping up the T-Mobile Arena crowd. So it was a very interesting event to see 50 Cent hyping up the crowd. They had the montage before the game. You had John Taffer from Bar Rescue hyping up the crowd. You had rapper Little John, who I feel like is at every Vegas event now. Little John, he was hyping up the crowd as well. So for Game 5, it really felt like a magical moment. It felt like it was a fantastic event that was about to kick off just because of all of the stuff going on pre-game. It was incredible. But how did the game go? How did the game actually go out in Game 5? Well, to kick off the game, Bruce Cassidy did something that some people speculated, but it wasn't confirmed until it happened. When they introduced the starting lineups for your Vegas Golden Knights, the first guy announced was Riley Smith. Now, Riley Smith, an original misfit, a guy who is the alternate captain of the Vegas Golden Knights. He is someone who has been a longtime stalwart of the Vegas Golden Knights, a day one, and it was very good to see him in the starting lineup. Opposite of him is his normal lines mate and the guy who has been on his line for 6 seasons, and that is Wild Bill William Karlsson. But what some people didn't expect until it happened, his original line mate, the guy who was part of their line for 5 seasons, Jonathan Marchessault, was announced as their last guy in that starting lineup. So, for the first time in a long time since the beginning of this season, you had them back together. You had the KSM line. You had Karlsson, Smith, and Marchessault back together one more time. And I think that was actually a fantastic move by Bruce Cassidy. Now, yes, it was only for one series. Okay, after the puck dropped, they went back to their original lines. I get it. But it was a really cool moment for all of the Vegas Golden Knights fans who have been here since day one to see their original 5 members, McNabb, Theodore, Marchessault, Carlson, and Smith, to see all of them back together in the starting lineup. That was a nice touch. I also am going to give credit, and I'm going to give a lot of credit tonight, to Bruce Cassidy. Bruce Cassidy came over from the Boston Bruins, and there was this idea, could his style of play correlate in Vegas? Could his style actually work here in Vegas? And not only did it work, it won Vegas a Stanley Cup. I mean, this is a Vegas Golden Knights team. They did a lot of dump and chase. Their forechecking was phenomenal. They took care of business. They didn't really do that many takeaways. And they were very excellent at capitalizing on Florida's turnovers. That was one aspect of the night that you saw over and over and over again. They limited their mistakes and took advantage of Florida's. I also have to mention that they did not fall into a trap of playing Florida's style of play. Florida is a very physical team. They are a ferocious team. They have a lot of intensity out there in Florida. They were known for tossing their body around. Vegas did not fall for it. Outside of a minor penalty to Keegan Kolesar early in the game, Vegas really didn't get into any fights. In fact, there was no fights in Game 5. This was the first time in this entire series, but it was vital. The first time in all 5 games, the Vegas Golden Knights did not have a single fight against Florida in Game 5. That was key because Vegas was showing, hey, we don't have to drop the gloves 15 times to make a point. All we're going to do is go out there and we're just going to straight up beat you. So Bruce Cassidy, obviously he gets a lot of my respect because of what he has done to Vegas. How they did better on the forecheck. How he did better on the back check. How when it comes to Vegas, when it came to defensive positioning, they did a stand-up job at redirecting and also causing deflections go into Vegas's way. Also, the 3-on-1 situations, both times it happened, I think Vegas scored both times. All right, both times that Vegas put Florida in a 3-on-1 situation, it was pretty much a tic-tac-toe. We're going to put the puck in the back of the net, and there's nothing you can do about it. Now, let's get into the actual game for Game 5. Because in the first period, after you had the 2 minor penalties, you had Aaron Ekblad, he had an interference penalty. He tripped up Howden, got an interference call. And then a few minutes later, Keegan Kolesar got an interference penalty against Sam Bennett. Sam Bennett and Keegan Kolesar collided at center ice. Keegan Kolesar did not like that. So a few seconds later, he pushed Sam Bennett almost into his own bench, which caused an interference penalty. But 12 minutes into the Stanley Cup Finals, 12 minutes into Game 1 of the Stanley Cup, Game 1 that was won by Vegas, not won, but won by Vegas. You had Mark Stone. He had a breakaway opportunity. All right, it was a situation where it was a costly turnover by Florida. Mark Stone just took it away from the defenseman, went down the other side of the ice, and put the puck in the back of the net to make it a 1-0 game for Vegas. And it really felt like in the energy at T-Mobile Arena definitely correlated to it. That first goal was a start of a boulder going down a hill, and it was just building momentum and building momentum. It really felt like the kinetic energy was going to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger as the night went on. So Mark Stone, 12 minutes in, getting a turnover, turning into a goal for the Vegas Golden Knights. Almost 2 minutes later, the Vegas Golden Knights end up scoring again as they had a really solid play from defenseman Nicholas Hague. Nicholas Hague, their 2017 second-round pick, a guy who has been with the Vegas Golden Knights as a development player, but a guy who has been with Vegas since they drafted him 6 years ago as part of their inaugural 2017 draft class. He put the puck in the back of the net as he had an assist from Jack Eichel and from Jonathan Marchessault. And this play really amped up the crowd at T-Mobile Arena because 2-0, it's not a guarantee you're going to win, but a 2-0 first period solidified that Vegas at least had the momentum in the remaining of the game. Now, the second period is where Vegas pretty much forced Florida to make mistakes. The second period is when Vegas straight up dominated against Florida. In the second period, 10 minutes in, Alec Martinez, the former LA King, the guy who was a 2-time Stanley Cup champion, now 3-time Stanley Cup champion, he put the puck in the back of the net, his second of the postseason, to make it a 3-1 game for Vegas. Alec Martinez, he was a really good acquisition for the Vegas Golden Knights using hindsight. They acquired him at the trade deadline in 2020. I mean, this was Alec Martinez. LA had him as a healthy scratch at times. This was a player who was a veteran, but a great veteran presence in the locker room and on the ice as well. Alec Martinez, with that goal, an assist from Alex Pietrangelo, his defensive pairing mate, and from Jack Eichel. That was Jack Eichel's second assist of the night. And I was talking to someone who I was sitting next to, and I said to her, if Jack Eichel can get more assists, maybe he'll get the Conn Smythe Trophy. But then I realized Jonathan Marchessault had an assist at that point as well, so it really depends on what story you favored more. But I just wanted to point that out, that when it came to Jonathan Marchessault and Jack Eichel, they had a bunch of assists. They were helping out the team throughout the entire night. And more importantly, the Vegas Golden Knights played as a collective unit. It was not one man for all. It was the entire 23-man roster coming together and playing as a team, and that was amazing. Not even 2 minutes later, an original Vegas Golden Knight, a misfit, finally put the puck in the back of the net. Riley Smith, with his fourth goal of the postseason, he had some help from his line mate, William Karlsson, and Shea Theodore. So in a roundabout way, you had a play that was factored in by every single player that was from that original team. Riley Smith made it a 4-1 game, and by that point, you could tell by his body language, Florida goaltender Sergei Bobrovsky had a lot of stuff going on up here. You could tell that his confidence was shaken by letting up that fourth goal in the second period. It's also fitting that Riley Smith scored against his former team, a team that gave him up in the expansion draft just so they could protect Alex Petrovic. Now, a few minutes go by. There's been some good passing. There was some solid defense by Vegas Golden Knights, which caused another turnover that was taken up by Mark Stone. This was a 3-on-1 opportunity. Mark Stone stopped in front of Sergei Bobrovsky, pivoted, and then just shot the puck for himself and put it in the back of the net to make it a 5-1 game for Vegas. He essentially was almost putting it out of reach in the second period. Mark Stone getting his second goal of Game 5, and it was a really good play by Mark Stone. Not just the execution on the defensive side, but the way that he just pivoted and just shot it. Instead of actually trying to pass the puck, or instead of him actually trying to redirect and give it to somebody else, he realized he could just shoot it. So he said, okay, and he just shot it. So it was a really solid play by Mark Stone. I give him a lot of credit. And he actually had some help from Chandler Stevenson and from Brett Howden, and it was a good play on both ends. Now, of course, Chandler Stevenson, he was the MVP of the regular season. We already made a video about that earlier this year here on Vegas Hockey Hub. And Mark Stone, him being the captain of the Vegas Golden Knights, he was the player of the night, hands down. Not just because of what we're going to talk about later on this episode, but Mark Stone, defensively, offensively, on the bench, in the locker room, during the presentation, he is a natural-born leader. Mark Stone showed in Game 5 why they traded for him. Mark Stone solidified why he gets paid what he gets paid. Mark Stone showed the entire world last night why he is valuable to Vegas. And of course, the whole Brett Howden situation, we'll talk about that on a future episode of Vegas Hockey Hub. But Brett Howden, the 25-year-old, the guy who was a former first-round pick by the Tampa Bay Lightning, now winning a Stanley Cup with the Vegas Golden Knights. It'll be great to see what happens in the future, but that is for a episode down the line of Vegas Hockey Hub. Continuing in this game, with 2 seconds left on the clock. All right, this was supposed to just be done. But with 2 seconds left in the second period, Michael Amadio with a goal off a redirect from Riley Smith to make it a 6-1 game. When watching the game live at T-Mobile Arena, I actually didn't see the goal go in. I actually did not think it was a goal until they showed instant replay. Because of how close it was to it being at 0-0-0, it actually took a lot of people by surprise. People weren't even celebrating right away at T-Mobile Arena. It took them a minute for them to actually know what was going on. But yeah, Michael Amadio with an assist from Riley Smith to make it a 6-1 game. And being at T-Mobile Arena for Game 5, being at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, the sports entertainment capital of the world, my town, my home, you could tell fans were getting excited. When it was a 6-1 game, you could feel it throughout the entire arena. Oh my gosh, this is it. Oh my goodness, we are going to win this thing. But you still had 20 minutes left. And I'm going to mention the 2 goals by Florida. All right, Aiden Hill, he was stopping 19 out of 20 shots. He looked like he could maybe be in the Conn Smythe Trophy conversation as well. But Sam Reinhart and Sam Bennett had 2 goals in about a 3-minute span to make it a 7-3 game for Vegas. I mean, it really looked like the Las Vegas Raiders were beating the Miami Dolphins. That's what the score really felt like. Okay, it really seemed like Devontae Adams scored a touchdown against the Miami Dolphins, and they were up 7-3 with a few minutes left in the game. That's what it looked like on the scoreboard. But with 8 minutes left in the game, you had the hat trick. You had the event that caused a lot of Vegas Golden Knights fans to absolutely go insane. Mark Stone scored on an empty net to make it a 8-3 game. Hats were flying all the way from the Hyde Lounge, from this upper section, the lower section, regardless where you were. Hats went everywhere as Mark Stone, the captain of the Vegas Golden Knights, ended up with the hat trick, and that was his 11th goal of the postseason. I also want to mention the Vegas Golden Knights had 4 players this postseason have 10 or more goals in the playoffs. That is remarkable. So 8-3, Mark Stone with the empty net. That seemed like it was going to be over. But with 1 minute left in the game, there was a redirect and then a rebound from Nick Waugh, which made it a 9-3 final for the Vegas Golden Knights. And I want to give a quick shout out to that 4th line, Kolazar, Carrier, and Waugh. Now look, I get it. 4th line is not flashy. It's not sexy. All right, the fourth line is definitely not the line people talk about, but I want to give credit to Carrier. I want to give credit to Waugh. I want to give credit to Kolazar because they did their role brilliantly. Kolazar was putting people on their butt all night long. Keegan Kolazar was making solid plays defensively. I mean, people always talk about his defensive analytics. Yeah, that's the reason why Keegan Kolazar is on the team. He is a good player for the Vegas Golden Knights, and I'm happy that he finally got a bit of credit in this game. I also want to mention that William Carrier, now he couldn't have been on the opening starting lineup because you could only have 5 players. You could only have 5 skaters and 1 goalie, but William Carrier, the original draft pick by the Buffalo Sabres, the guy that the Vegas Golden Knights acquired during the 2017 NHL expansion draft. He is also an original misfit. He is a day 1 original Golden Knight, and I wanted to give him his respect as well because throughout all 6 years, William Carrier went from a grinder, went from a guy with stone hands and someone who rarely put the puck in the back of the net to having a near double-digit goals in this season and was a vital part of that bottom 6 all year long. So when it was 9-3, there was a minute left in the game, and my ears were ringing. Your ears were ringing. T-Mobile Arena, 19,000 people, and I don't think a single person was sitting down with a minute left because everyone and their great-great-great-grandmother knew what was about to happen next. Everyone knew that the Vegas Golden Knights were going to make history on that night. And when the buzzer sounded, when the alarm went off, when the smoke went in the air, the Vegas Golden Knights were crowned your 2023 Stanley Cup champions. The Vegas Golden Knights, and I will give a lot of credit once again to Bill Foley, to George McPhee, to Kelly McCrimmon, because if it wasn't for Bill Foley having a vision of National League hockey coming to Vegas, this team wouldn't be a reality. If Bill Foley didn't put the time, the effort, and more importantly, the money to make the Vegas Golden Knights work, Vegas would not be your Stanley Cup champion. So all the respect to Bill Foley for the vision that he had. Also keep in mind that Bill Foley predicted it, folks. This clip has gone viral in the last 12 hours. Bill Foley said in 2016 that hopefully the Vegas Golden Knights can win a Stanley Cup in 6 years. He said playoffs in 3, Stanley Cup in 6. 6 years later, Bill Foley raises the Stanley Cup, and wins a Stanley Cup championship here in Vegas. George McPhee, of course, he was the original mastermind, the original general manager of the Vegas Golden Knights, now is the president of hockey operations. And George McPhee should get a lot of respect and a lot of credit for what he did on expansion draft night. For what he did in the 2017 NHL draft, drafting Nicholas Hague. He should get a lot of credit for signing an undrafted free agent by the name of Zach Whitecloud, which is also a very underrated signing by the Vegas Golden Knights at the time. And yes, I will even talk about it. Him trading Eric Brandstrom, who was their number 1 prospect at the time, to the Ottawa Senators to get Mark Stone was brilliant by George McPhee. And then Kelly McCrimmon, he came in and he made a very impactful trade, and that was the Jack Eichel deal with Buffalo. So Kelly McCrimmon should get his credit, George McPhee should get his credit, and Bill Foley definitely got his credit. And Gary Bettman, when he got on the ice, I want to give a lot of credit to Golden Knights fans for booing him when he got on the ice. Because it's tradition at this point. It doesn't matter if it's Rob Manfred in MLB, Adam Silver in the NBA, Roger Goodell in the NFL, and definitely Gary Bettman in the NHL. But when a commissioner gets on a live mic it is tradition to boo the living heck out of your commissioner. It's just the status quo, all right? That's what you got to do. But Gary Bettman paying homage to Las Vegas, giving credit to Las Vegas for winning a Stanley Cup, I will say, hey, that was good on him. And then it was the Conn Smythe Trophy time. It was time to announce who had won the playoff MVP. And man, oh man, did the building go electric when an original Golden Knight, a misfit, Jonathan Marchessault, was announced as the playoff MVP. Mark Stone hugged Jonathan Marchessault and pretty much told him, hey, go get your trophy. Once again, Mark Stone is the captain of your Vegas Golden Knights for a reason. He is a leader. And then when he came to the MVP time, and after that, Gary Bettman, he took the photo with Marchessault, and now it is the Stanley Cup presentation. Gary Bettman, he goes to Mark Stone. Mark Stone skates over. They do the photo that they do every single year where a captain gets to have a photo with Gary Bettman. And Mark Stone gets to raise the Stanley Cup. What Mark Stone did next was a brilliant move. This was a classy decision by Mark Stone. And once again, really spotlights how much of a leader Mark Stone is. After Mark Stone got his turn, Jonathan Marchessault got his turn. Then Riley Smith got his turn. Then William Karlsson got his turn. Then Braden McNabb got his turn. Then Shea Theodore got his turn. The original Misfits got their turns respectfully first. All 6 players who are part of the original Misfits, who were part of that original 2017 roster, all 7 of them ended up getting the Stanley Cup back to back to back to back to back to back to back. Now, I will point out 2 guys who, when they raised the Stanley Cup, T-Mobile went berserk. The first one was Phil Kessel. Phil Kessel, the hot dog man, the guy who won cups in Pittsburgh, the guy who's the all-time Iron Man of the NHL, the consecutive all-time starts in the NHL. When Phil Kessel got the trophy, that entire crowd wanted to cheer for Phil Kessel. The fact that Phil Kessel is a 3-time champion, but this is the first time he got to celebrate with his kid, was a solid move by the Vegas Golden Knights. And the fact that Phil Kessel was fully dressed, was in full uniform despite not playing at all in the second, third, and for the Stanley Cup final, that was a nice touch. And the other guy who got an insane loud reaction was Laurent Brisebois. Laurent Brisebois, when he was handed the Stanley Cup, the crowd got excited because they remember what he did. They remember that Laurent Brisebois got them past Winnipeg. Laurent Brisebois is what led them in Edmonton. So I'm happy they gave him his credit. Now, we have a minute left here on Vegas Hockey Hub, so I just want to get to the comments real quick. I want your voices to be heard. Game 5 started with a lot of class, with Cassidy playing the 5 Misfits, starting, and then Stone finished it with more class to make it extra special for all the original 2017 fans. The best part of the night was Marchie getting the Smythe Trophy. He is for the year he has played so far. And do not understand why Aiden Hill did not get the trophy with the playoff career, but understood after someone told me that Marchie got it because he played all year, where Hill did not. Hill had a great 2023 season, and the Vegas Golden Knights have a championship because of his saves and how he played. Yes, you have an excellent point, and I absolutely agree with you. Now, this is the end of this episode of Vegas Hockey Hub. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and turn on all notifications so do not miss any episode of Vegas Hockey Hub. We are here Monday through Friday on PR Connections Radio at 6 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Mountain, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. So until next time, I'm your host, Ian Rakelli. Follow me on social media down below at IanRakelli18. And until next time, continue watching hockey, go support junior hockey, and we won the cup. Go, Knights, go.